Lion brand TruBoo yarn. So very exciting, I must say, and for me especially, because I love the naturals and this does not disappoint. So I'm going to get into what I like about it and why, but first I would like to show you the colorways, and then I'm going to do a little demo with different stitches. Now this is a scarf I'm working on in a tutorial that's coming up next, so if you would like to see this, and it could be a scarf or a cowl with a couple of different options, I will leave the link below for that as soon as that video is up. And the stitches I'm going to be doing in a demo here are not part of the stitch in the tutorial, just to let you know. But since I'm working on it, I thought this would be a good time to show the yarn. So again, this is Lion brand yarns TruBoo, and it is a 100% rayon from bamboo, and the rayon is a bamboo pulp. This is a number 3 light. I totally agree with that. You get 3.5 ounces, 100 grams, 241 yards per skein, 220 meters. The recommended hook size is a USG 6 or 4.0 millimeter. I've used that. I went up a half hook size, 4.5, and then I even tried an H hook 5 millimeter, and they all worked well. I went down a little. That was just way too tight, lost the stitch definition, made it a little bit kind of bunchy. For this particular pattern, I went with a G hook. That's really great, but it just depends on the stitch that you're using, how open that you want it, how lacy, and of course your own tension. Alright, so this color is Thistle, and it's a true lavender color. And this pink colorway here is called Hot Pink, and it seems like they have a lot of lighter and darker tones within the same family, which is nice, because if you want to work kind of your own ombre or self-striping, not self-striping, but you know what I mean, making your own, then you can certainly do that, or mix and match colors, and I'm going to show you that in a second for a color combination that I personally love, which is often quite unexpected. And this one is aqua, color 102, straight up aqua. Okay, and the unexpected colors that I think are so fun and summery are these 3 together, and depending on which order that you prefer, which you like. And so the hot pink mixed with the scarlet and the tangerine, I believe this is. Yes, indeedy. And I just happened to stop at Joann when they first got it in here in the US. They just had one rack of it separate from their regular yarn, so I picked up a few different colors to try and play around with, and I tell you, oh boy, those just flew out the door. It was great. I got them when they were on sale, an additional coupon, so we all love those coupons. This yarn is incredibly soft, silky, cool to the touch. Different bamboo yarns that I've worked with tend to be very splitty, and this is at the end where I've cut it off, but it's had a lot of kind of work and manipulation at the same time, but I found little to no issues working with it. The most splitting I had was when I went up to an H hook, because the size hook for the gauge of the yarn, and it was a little bit bulky, but all I did was I just adjusted and angled the hook in a different way and found what seemed to work with using that size compared to this yarn. So I think if you go with the recommended hook size, either a 4 or 4.5 millimeter, then you should be just fine on that. And because it is incredibly soft and with that sleekness to it, it is slippery. And so if you happen to have a wooden hook particularly if you are new to crochet, then I do recommend that, because the nature of wood, it slows you down just a little bit, just enough, and depending on the type of wood, how smooth it is and the type of coating that it has, and also the shape of the hook. So depending on all that, how much it will actually slow you down. But it didn't with me very much at all, just enough to give that little extra bite and grip on the yarn to keep it from sliding off the hook. And I will show you what I mean by that. It takes very little for it to slip off the hook and for the loop you're working in to just pull right out, and several stitches before that. I'll show you that with the metal hook. And also what I've done to kind of compensate and offset the two slippery elements combined, what I do, and that might help you what you can do when you're working with this. But I have actually, when coming up with a stitch that I wanted for this particular yarn, and what I thought would be really nice for any type of yarn and weight in this particular pattern, I went through about a half a dozen stitches. Most of them I tried in this yarn, some I did not. Okay, so before I get too sidetracked, I am going to just show you some basic stitches so you can see how it goes as I'm working it up. Okay, so I'm just going to chain 3 to get up to the height. Okay, so as far as adjusting for the slipperiness, it's kind of the same thing as I do with working with, like, say, Red Heart It's a Wrap Rainbow or similar yarns, where you have those 4 strands of thread together but that are not spun, they're individual, to keep from dropping those stitches. It'd be the same, principle to keep from dropping that loop on my hook, is I just keep a bit more tension on the working yarn. Not so much where I'm going to pull it off the hook or affect the consistency and look of my stitches, because I want to keep that even stitch definition as much as possible. But also another thing related to that is you can see that this is a very open and lacy stitch, so like the top loop at the end of, say, a double crochet here is more open than it is closed, and since that's kind of how it wanted to be, I just let that happen, and I think it gives a little even more visual interest to the scarf. I mean, not everything has to be exactly just so, if you know what I mean. Okay, so I just keep a little bit more tension. Another thing I found to make sure I have plenty of working yarn available and pulled on the table or pulled out from the skein or ball, and because if there is tension pulling at this end, then it just tends to come whoop right off my hook and then start pulling out some of the stitches. So this is just a regular double crochet, and I'll show you what I mean about that as I work a few more stitches. So yeah, this frogs really easily, really easily. And if your knots, as you're pulling it out, get cinched down a little tight, you do have to be careful picking them apart. Maybe just get kind of a fat yarn needle so it's not going to split your stitches as you're trying to work through and get that apart. But if you're just patient and take a few minutes, I found it comes right out, and I really didn't have to do any major cutting. But don't pull out so much yarn in that little pull I talked about at one time, because you don't want that to tangle easily. So just some little extra practical working tips for you. Okay, so I'll just do one more double crochet. You can just see how smooth this is. I'll go slow-mo here. It's easy to see the stitches, the stitch definition, and now, I'll just pick up my speed a little bit. And just split that stitch. But yeah, and on this you probably, if you're a real zippy crocheter, you may not want to go too fast, because that is another way that I found out that you can wind up accidentally catching your stitches. Okay, so now let's do, let's say we'll do a cluster stitch so you can see something a little fuller together. And do a couple of chains so you can see the chains. And you see, even with working with the recommended yarn, see how easily, I mean, if I just set it down and barely boop boop, it just comes right out. But even the stitches with the recommended hook tend to just naturally be a little bit looser, so that's why I just went with it. Unless you want something real tight, then you can try going down a hook. Okay, so let's do another cluster. I'll do one more there. Okay. See how pretty that is? Hopefully I'm close enough. Nice stitch definition. The yarn itself gives its own texture. Okay, now we can do a little, how about if we, did I do that right? Yeah, a little puff stitch over here. And with the puff stitches, you really need to have your thumb free so you can help keep these a little bit under control and on your hook. And be careful going through. That's another time that I found that it tends to catch. So I for this, I would not do a puff stitch. I started one with it, and it was just became a little bit monotonous and aggravating for me anyway. But certainly, you know, these clusters are quite lovely. And you can see where it goes through and where I kind of tend to hang up just a little bit. So now I'm going to switch hooks, and even though the other one is larger, it's a 5mm H hook, it'll just maybe give you a little bit of an idea. It's harder visually that way rather than feeling the difference. So when you're working with slippery yarns and a slippery hook, don't fight with it, you know, and just become one. Between your mind, your arm, your hand, your hook, and the yarn. Like, think of it in a way as a symphony. Okay, your mind is the conductor, your hand is your instrument, as is your hook, because as I just said, one is an extension of the other, all working together to create beautiful harmony. Woo! That was a mouthful to get out. But I was just thinking of that the other day, and I've always tried, you know, if I'm getting stressed out or aggravated, okay, if one way's not working, well, let me try something else. That's why I play around with the way I'm holding it, the angle of my hook, my tension, all that good stuff. And just let my mind and my spirit relax. And so the other night, that just really dawned on me. It is like a symphony. And so bet you didn't know that you were going to get a philosophical moment and metaphor along with your review and demo, did ya? Always surprises here at Cabin Fever Crochet. Okay, so now I'm going to change my hook, and these are both furls, by the way. This is their streamline. Okay, this is an H hook. Okay, so, and it's bigger, it's different to work with, but I'm just going to go kind of like at my normal speed here, and it's really not slowing me down too much. But as I make those passes through, I do need to be like right there, pass through the yarn overs. I do need to be a little careful, but again, keep in mind, I am working with a larger hook. But if you can see, you know, even if I kind of go about my normal speed, I am going a little bit more slowly, but due to this type this brand, it's very smooth. I wish I had the same size and this wooden hook to compare apples for apples, but I figured this is going to give you just a pretty decent sense of it anyway. Okay, so I'm thinking that's pretty much all I had to say, except for wearing it. It is so cool and so comfortable and just perfect for warm weather temperatures. Perfect for garments. It's awesome. It's affordable. I think it's $5.99 for a skein. Again, 241 yards, 220 meters. And you can make an absolutely lovely summer top, a tank top, a shawl, a cowl, a scarf. You can make it as wide or as thin, and you can see how nicely that pulls. I think that's the back side, and here again you've got some up close on the actual pattern itself. And I haven't steam blocked this or just steamed this yet to open up the stitches, but when I do, it'll just take a few minutes. I do it in a really pretty simple way. And that'll open it up, and then you can see it even more. Real happy with it. They have amazing, incredible colors. It's available on a variety of sites. I found it on Joann, Hirschner's, and of course Lion Brand so far. Okay, well, happy hooking, my friends, or knitting, or whatever it is that you do. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your yarn making. Take care as always, please, and I will see you soon.